Sai. Sairam, everyone.
Sairam.
We will just take a look at what we discussed last week before proceeding. We are in 11th chapter of Sandeha Nivarini. And Swami is talking about the concepts of Asti, Bhati, Priyam, Sat, Chit, Anandam, how it relates to our life. The question posed by the Bhakta was, what can we give, can Swami give an example of something which is of the present day world? And then Swami goes on to talk about a cinema theater. He says in the cinema theater, the screen remains forever and it doesn't change. And that is isness, to be, to exist. Then Swami says, on that screen, during the film, there are many objects, forms and names which appear on the screen and disappear. And there's someone who is looking at it and understanding that what is going on. And that is, Swami says, bhati, the knowledge or effulgence. And then Swami says, priyam also is, the liking, what's going on. That affinity can be considered priyam. He says that all these names and forms, varied forms and shapes which appear on the screen, is because there's a small hole on the wall, one of the walls, and through which a beam of light actually falls on the screen. And because of that, we see all these variety of names and forms. But if that wall were not to be there, and if the light was not coming through a small hole, but the entire hole is filled with light, he says there won't be any names or forms. And then Swami says that is Atma Jnana. As long as the light of sun from the buddhi comes through a small, narrow hole in our mind, through our mind, the world will look to have so many names and forms. But when the Atma Jnana or the buddhi is coming through in full effulgence, not limited by the tiny hole in the mind, then everything will be realized as Atman. That's where we were. I think variety of discussions were taking place in terms of sadhana, why the vasanas may not allow us, and so on. Even as for us to take the sadhana of getting the full light. The reality is, even if how much ever the vasanas are, there's a tiny beam of light which still comes. And someone who is wise will make use of that light and work with that and develop jnana or increase that light beam which is coming, is what my understanding is. So I will pause here. If anyone had any thoughts based on whatever we discussed last week, you can share it. If not, we will move on. Saira. Okay, I think Sister Kalya, maybe you can move to the next slide and read, I guess.
Bhakta, I have understood it clearly, Swami. Now I know what is meant by the obstruction of the past. What are the obstructions of the present? Swami, good, I shall tell you. The obstructions of the present are of 4 types. Attachment to sense objects, cynical criticism, dullness of understanding, and absurd conceit. The first is the cause of attachment to objects that attract the senses. The second makes men discover wrong meanings in the teachings of the Guru. The third causes confusion because things explained by the Guru are not grasped at all. The last obstruction makes one feel that one is a great scholar, pundit, or ascetic, mistaking the body and the senses for the Atma.
Thank you very much, sister. So as Swami had mentioned, the name and form and the circumstances in which we exist today is all caused by our past. So they are considered bhuta pratibandha. That's the term which Swami is using. Obstructions of the past. So now what he's asking, if they were obstructions of the past, what are the obstructions of the present? And then Swami gives 4 types of obstructions of the present. And as you can, I think, sense objects, attachment, which is the term Swami uses is Vishaya Asakti. Vishaya Asakti. The second one Swami says is cynical criticism. The word Swami has used in Telugu is kutarka, kutarkam. Then the fourth one is dullness of understanding. Swami says it's prajna mandyam. Prajna mandyam. Or mandha buddhi, actually, you can say. Someone who does not understand things. The last one is, Swami says, absurd conceit. Thinking that someone knows everything, and Swami calls it viparyasa duragrahamu. That is not understanding, but thinking that they have understood. And Swami says they think they are a pandita, they think they are a vartaka, and so, means one who is literate and knowledgeable and wise and so on. So those are, Swami says, are 4 obstructions of the present. So I will pause here and I will open it up for discussion. And whoever wants to share anything, please go ahead.
Sairam, Kudarkam means argue or debating the one thing. Kudarkam.
Just my understanding is that others can put in their thoughts.
Sairam.
My understanding is that someone who doesn't understand a particular topic, but he is criticizing it without the lack of proper arguments. Even if you want to argue.
Sairam.
Sairam auntie.
இந்த 4 இந்த தமிழ் இதுல போட்டிருக்கு. இந்த 4 வென்றது இந்த அம்பிகா கேட்ட இதுல இந்திரிய இன்பத்தில் கண் பற்று 1, 2 பிறர் குற்றம் காணல், 3 அறிவதில் தளர்ச்சி, 4 அகங்காரம் என்று போட்டிருக்கு. தமிழ் புத்தகத்திலேயா? சாய்ராம்.
And so maybe if no one is saying, I will just speak about. See, if, for example, this all obstructions, when Swami says they are all obstructions to spirituality, sadhana. The attachment to the sense of sense, Swami says, gadhamaina preeti. That's what Swami says. We have such a very strong desire for the external world. So, for example, people will say, we don't need to do sadhana, let's enjoy the world, and then later on we will look at spirituality. So most people fall into this category because they just want to have a good time in this world. They think if they go into spirituality, they cannot enjoy the world because they like the enjoyment and the desire for that is so much that they cannot give up. So that becomes an obstruction for path of sadhana. The second one is cynical criticism. Even if, for example, if somebody comes to know, Swami is there, or the divine, they will say, "What's God? There's no God. Everyone is suffering. If God is compassionate, He should be looking after everyone. People are suffering, so I don't believe in God. I don't believe in, people who are doing sadhana. They are also going through suffering. So what's the point? I won't. This type of argument. They don't even see what the benefit people who are following are getting, or they don't even go and find out for themselves. If, for example, Swami is there, if they want to consider, they should go and experience, as Swami says. Instead of that, he is doing some magic and this and that, he's fooling people, it's a cult, all these kind of arguments people say, and because of that, they don't even try. They don't try sadhana. They don't have faith in the sadhana. They just dismiss it. So that's called kutarka, means you just give arguments. It seems very rational, but it's very irrational. The third one is dullness of understanding. We join some sadhana path, and the guru is teaching something. But whatever the guru is teaching, Swami says, you understand viparithamana, means you give all sorts of other meanings which the guru actually does not give. If he says a statement, Swami gives a very nice story about this. So I hope you don't mind. Swami says this type of devotees should not be there. See, he says there's a guru in one village. He was teaching his students, whenever you are doing sadhana, it should be one-pointed. No other disturbance should come. You should try to keep the disturbance away and things like that. So all the disciples listened and nodded their head, and the guru's apparently birthday came. So when the birthday came, every disciple was telling, "Please come, Guru, to our house and bless us. We want to, offer something to you and sing." Because there were householder disciples and there were celibate disciples who were living with him also. So there was one disciple, apparently he was staying with the Guru. So the Guru said, "Okay, someone has invited, so I'm going to go and come. You stay inside the ashram. When I come, I will knock." So he said, "Yes, Guruji," and then Guru left. When the Guru left, this student, he said, it's a birthday of the Guru. So I am going to do, elaborate puja for the Guru. And he set himself up in the one room and he started doing puja. The door was locked and the Guru left. When the Guru left, he had lunch at one of his disciples' house and he was coming back. Apparently, Swami was saying the person was bald-headed. There was a lot of hot sun was beating down and he didn't have his slippers. So the road was very, very hot and he had to walk all the way back and he was tired and the outside sun was very, very scorching and heat was too much. So he came to the ashram and he was knocking on the door. This disciple who was inside, he was engrossed in his puja. So the Guru said, called him out. He said, "Don't disturb me, I'm doing my puja now." So Guru said, "Yeah, let me in and then continue." He said, No, when I am doing sadhana, no disturbance should come. Then the Guru asked him, "Who are you praying to?" "Oh, I am worshipping you only, but you wait outside." So Swami says, sometimes the disciples don't understand what the Guru is teaching properly. They understand something very limited way, and then so that means he didn't understand why he has to do the puja. What is sadhana? Who is Guru? For him, the picture became the Guru became no one. So this kind of understanding, I was reminded of that. So prajna mandhyam, it means a very shallow, incorrect understanding of what the Guru teaches. The last one is viparyasa. Then there's a category who think we have understood. We know, God is everywhere. You are God, I am God, so I don't have to listen to you. I am also God, things like that also. And they may feel a sort of, you can say both are similar to some extent, but the last one is the worst, I guess, because they have completely understood wrong, but they think there's nothing for them to learn. Viparyasa duragraham. So I think that's my understanding, but I will I think Sitaram is here. If he understands something different from the Telugu versions, he can say, but I will open it up for discussion. Sai.
Sairam, this is a very important point, I believe, in our study circle. Same way the Swami is teaching, sometime without knowing, we also doing the same mistake. I believe we have to understand really well. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, sister. Sai.
So, Sairam, brother, so we have a good opportunity to participate in the study circle. This is because of our past karma or whatever the merit we brought to this world. But if we have these abstractions, the 4 kind of abstractions, even though we participate in the study circle, we cannot take the whatever the knowledge invertedly. We are looking at invertedly. So we have to bring our mind free. If we have too many things, the abstractions, whatever we teaching, we cannot put it into our mind, because all these 4 things, especially the sensual attachment, the Visaya karma, whatever you mentioned, that is the main thing, is disturbing us to concentrate. So for the concentration, these are the things important. And for the liberation, whatever Swami gave, very good, and we have selected these topics to speed up our sadhana. So in order to do that one, we have to come out with the abstractions and free our mind. Then we can gain the nectar of this study circle. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, brother. Thank you.
Sairam. My understanding is that we had to study well that Swami is teaching and understand that, and then we had to put in practice. That's the way we can improve ourselves. That is that. That's kind of, I can admit that. Also, I have a small question that some devotees come and saying that we are our children are too young, that they don't have to participate in the study circle. They have enough time to come back. They have some other works and the family work. They have to look after that. If they get older, they can come to the study circle. What is the answer for that, please? Can you give that?
Okay, thank you, brother. I think the next question and answer, Swami is giving us a solution for these 4 problems. So I think if we have all, I think maybe Sister Kalyani, maybe we can read the next slide also. So then the discussions will be a bit more meaningful. No, I think there's something should be there before this. Okay, I'll go ahead. Or go to the next one. Yeah, that's fine.
Bhakta, and the obstructions of the future? Swami, oh, they come always through sinful deeds. They come and obstruct unawares. Bhakta, how are we to meet them, Swami? Swami, it is not possible for all. The aspirant can, to some extent, be cognizant of the approaching wrong and its wiles. It creates a desire, which puts on the cloak of want. Then you must recognize it as an obstruction of the future. It is difficult to be forewarned like this, as the result of the effort of one single life. It may take many births to acquire this education. Bhakta, are there any who have so learned it? Swami, why, there are. The scriptures speak of Bharata and Vasudeva. Bharata required 2 or 3 births. Vasudeva had to be born once.
Okay, thank you very much, sister. So I think the solutions for all this comes a little later, but I think Swami wants us to understand the obstructions, and then he's giving us the solutions. So now he's talking about the obstructions of the future. I think the basic Swami says, I think the future is what Swami, I think they have used the word sinful deeds. I don't know whether Sitaram is here. If you have ability to read.
Sure, brother. 1 second. I'll just read what Swami has said.
The first, especially the first one, the response.
Okay. So the devotee asks, Inka bhavi pritibandha managa emi. That is the future obstructions.
Yeah.
And Swami says, Oho, adi papa karmala valana eppudu vachede. Teliyakundane vachedi. Papa karmalu is what I think he has referred it as sinful deeds.
So thank you very much, brother. So as you can see, Swami says, so future ones, without our knowledge, we will encounter them. I think Swami explains it a little later properly. So that means, okay, the next, then how are we to meet them? The disciple asking, he says, the aspirant he should anticipate what is going to come. He should anticipate and then stop it. Because what happens is, without our knowledge, we get into some situation and then it creates a desire. And through that desire, then it becomes an obstruction. I will just give a small example. This is what just to kick off this discussion. See, we are at home, everything is fine. Then somebody comes and says, let's just go to the mall. We didn't have any wants, desires, nothing. We were very content at home. But somebody comes and says, let's go to the mall. And then we say, okay, let's go. And then we go to the mall. And then we go walk around the mall and do some window shopping. You see a couple of new things. Before you know, you would have bought things which you never even dreamed that you wanted to buy. Okay. So there are situations like this where when we go to a restaurant, we don't have any desire for any food. Somebody sees a restaurant, goes inside and looks at the menu, right away, all sorts of desires come. Not only we want what we want to eat this time, maybe next time also we have to come and eat here. So this is called future. So a person who wants to avoid this should know what are the things which create this kind of a bondage and avoid that. So that's what Swami is saying. Then the disciple is asking, Swami, how can it be? And Swami says it takes many, many lives to take care of that, overcome this problem, because only through experience we can avoid it. And then Swami, that's devotee is asking, are there any examples? And Swami is saying Bharata, which is Jataparada. And Swami says Vasudeva. Apparently, Jataparada required 3 births to get to that point, overcome all this. And Vasudeva had to be born once. So these are Swami's words. I will stop here. I think I have already spoken a lot.
Brother Sairam, is it possible to tell the story, please, that why Vasudeva had born once? What is that story? If that can be understand, then we know what Swami is talking about, the obstruction of future. Thank you.
I don't know if anyone else would like to volunteer to tell the story. If there are no volunteers, I will tell, based on my knowledge. See, the story of Vasudeva, I really don't know. I even did a lot of research, but I could not find either in Swami's discourses or outside. So I will leave that out. We will talk about just Jataparada. Actually, in the previous paragraph, Swami, okay, I will just tell the story and then we'll come back to this. So Jataparada is, so there was a king in ancient time. He was very learned and he was a wise person. So what happened, he did his grihastha stage of life, householder stage where he ruled the kingdom. And when he realized he was nearing, he is nearing his end of his life, midway, I would say, Vanaprastha, he realized that he should start taking a full-time sadhana. So he handed over the kingdom to his son and he went into the forest and he was doing very rigorous austerities. just meditating. He had given up all attachments and so on. While he was having this kind of sadhana, he was doing this sadhana. What happened to him was, one day he found a deer being chased by a tiger or something like that. Okay. So what happened? He was looking at it. It was just happening in front of him, and this deer tried to escape, but the lion attacked and it fell down, and a small it gave birth to a small doe. But the mother deer went, and I think the animal killed it. So this became an orphaned small deer. So this king, who was a rishi at that time, he started taking care of this deer out of compassion. He doesn't have mother and things like that. He was taking so much care of it out of compassion. But then what happened? That compassion gave rise to some attachment. So it interfered with this sadhana. So what happened was, when he was dying also, he became so old and he was dying. He was thinking, what will happen to the deer? The reality is, though he had given up all attachments and come here, he suddenly got caught again. Though he was a very learned person, was a real jnani, there was one, out of just compassion, not that he wanted to possess it, he wanted to look after it. I think many parents suffer from this. So what happened? In the next life, he had to be born as a deer, because he had to look after a small deer. So he was born as a deer. So, but even though he was born as a deer, he realized, his folly, of that small desire, because that jnanam also came along, I'm sure, even though he was an animal. So he had to run through that birth, and in the next life, he was born in a saintly family. But from the birth, he was not talking. He was not speaking a word. He seemed like a jadam. Jadam means he was not reacting to anything. If you hit him also, he will just stare at you, everything. So the parents were really worried. But he grew up to be an older person, a young person. But, he was not doing any work. He was not studying. He was not reading. He was not speaking a single word. And he used to just roam around. And he used to sit anywhere and everywhere. So once he went and he was sitting under a tree. Apparently a king's retinue was passing, and people were carrying the king in a palanquin, and one of them got hurt. So one of the pall bearers. So they had to find somebody, and they couldn't find, and they saw this person sitting under a tree. They just grabbed him and said, "Come here and carry this." So this person started carrying one of the poles, and the palanquin was going. But Jadabharata was not even caring what was going on. So the king who was inside the palanquin felt it was not very comfortable, whoever was carrying it, because he was carrying like a wooden person. That's why it's called Jada. Jadabharata means who is insentient. I think, and people who have some Indian knowledge or Indian language knowledge will understand. Jada means inert. He's an inert person. So this king got mad, and he asked, "What do you think? Who are you?" Like that something. Then he gave an answer which flowed. That was the first time apparently opened this. He asked him, "Are you asking the body or asking the Atma?" So then they realized this person is a jnani. So he became known as Jada Bharata. Okay. And that was his last, because he was a jnani who was all realized. So that is the story of Jada Bharata. As you can see, he took 3 births. I think Sitaram is typed something about Vasudeva. So I will just read out about Vasudeva, which Sitaram has written. History of behind Vasudeva, as explained Srimad Bhagavatam. Kalyani, you can read it, Kalyani. What's written?
When Vishnu appeared before Vasudeva and Devaki in their prison cell in order to incarnate as Krishna, he told them about how he was born to them in previous births as well as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear mother, best of the chaste, in your previous birth in the Swayambhuva millennium, you were known as Prishni, and Vasudeva, who was the most pious Prajapati, was named Sudapa. When both of you were ordered by Lord Brahma to create progeny, you first underwent severe austerities by controlling your senses. Since I am the best of all bestowers of benediction, I appeared in the same form to ask you to take me, the benediction you desired. You then expressed your desire to have a son exactly like me. Since I found no one else as highly elevated as you in simplicity and other qualities of good character, I appeared in this world as Prishnigarbha, or the one who is celebrated as having taken birth from Prishni. In the next millennium, I again appeared from the two of you, who appeared as my mother, Aditi, and my father, Kashyapa. I was known as Upendra, and because of being a dwarf, I was also known as Vamana. O supremely chaste mother, I, the same personality, have now appeared of you both as your son for the third time.
So Sairam, Brother Sitaram. So in this case, as you can see, there are 3 births, and there's no mention of Vasudeva having attained jnana in Bhagavatam anywhere. So that's why that's why, because Swami has mentioned Vasudeva had to be born only once. Because of that, I did not choose this.
Okay.
That's the
I
reason.
thought this may be relevant, but okay. So I
Yeah.
don't-
So even in this Bhagavata, even at the end of the Bhagavata, when Vasudeva died, so I read that also, because just before the Dwaraka got submerged, he passed away after the Yadavas fought with each other and killed each other. Even that time, I didn't see any mention of him as a jnani having reached. So that's why, then we really don't know what he did to even, but in what we have read, they wanted the God to be born as their child. And so he was born 3 times. And but in the case of Jada Parada, he realized he is jnani. He didn't want anything. That was the state, and I could not find Vasudeva. If at all he was born after that, what was his state? That was the reason. Thank you very much. So I will open it for discussion.
I'll just add one more point, brother. In
Yes.
Telugu, Swami has not mentioned that he's taken only one birth.
Okay.
Swami says, భరతుడు 2-3 జన్మలు ఎత్తినయు వాసుదేవునకు తిరిగి జన్మ కలిగినదనియు. తిరిగి జన్మ కలిగినదనియు doesn't
very good,
equate to just one janma.
Okay.
It says again he has taken birth. So maybe,
Thank
I'm not
you,
sure, but that's the difference.
Okay, very good. Thanks for explaining that. So as you can see, some of the translation, actually you will later, further down also, I found that the translation was not doing full justice to what Swami has said. So this means Swami is saying Vasudeva was born again. Swami didn't say once.
Yes, brother.
Thank you very much. Tirigi means he is born once more, or not once more, he was born again. So, but I think we have the example of Jata Bharata. Actually, if you look at, see in the Telugu, there's one more word, sentence, which is not translated. Swami says, Dhaya Rupamaina Asakti Puttin. That means, I think Sitaram can correct me. The thing is, Swami says, for a jnani who is able to avoid it, the last attachment they will have is due to compassion, not attachment. Due to to daya or compassion, they will get some sort of a liking for somebody, something. So that can be an obstruction of the future for a person who is a jnani also, who has reached. So that's Swami's. I will stop here and others can discuss their comments or their thoughts, please.
Sai Ram, I understand this. When we have a desire, at that point of we are dying or that time, for humans, I believe we have lots of desires. Then we have to come again as a form of rebirth again and again. So lots of time. That's what my understanding. So we have lots of desires.
Sai Ram, sister, yes. Maybe we'll read the next slide also, Sister Kali. I think because they're all very related and Swami is giving some solutions. And so I think then we can go back if we want to, because I think Swami has described, basically Swami has described 3 types of obstructions: the past, present, and future. The past, he has said what it is; present, what it is. He also says wants of something in the future, how we have to overcome that. And then Swami, please now read this.
Bhakta, that means these 3 obstructions cannot be overcome except after many lives? Can we not succeed without all that bother? Swami, why? The aspirant can, by reasoning out the nature of these 3, escape from being worried by them. Otherwise, it may take many lives. Bhakta, Swami, how to get over the obstruction of the present? Swami, there is a way for this also, through karma, the appropriate karma. There is no obstruction that cannot be surmounted. Attachment to sense objects can be removed by sama, dhamma, uparati, tidiksha, by developing purity, self-control, withdrawal of desires, and the ability to suffer. Dullness of understanding can be removed by listening again and again. Constant meditation on the things heard will abolish the habit of cynical criticism. All absurd conceit will vanish through the teachings one imbibes.
Thank you very much, sister. So, Swami, it's because Swami, I think, realizes it may seem very bleak, our future. We are going to be born, for how many thousands of times. Swami says, don't worry about it. He says, worry is the word Swami seems to have used. He says we should reason. We should reason out, and through the reasoning, we can overcome. Then the devotees are saying, okay, future is, we can't worry about it too much. Because for that only we have to reason. For example, if somebody says, come to the mall, we should know, okay, we have gone to the mall before and we have ended up in this kind of situation. So this time we shouldn't go to the mall. That comes with experience. When we know that this will happen, if we go there and if we still do it, then no one to be blamed. So we can avoid things like that, because once we have gone through one problem, we should know we should not get to it again. But sometimes mind is so foolish. Then the present one, Swami says, Swami has given us a few opportunities. He says through appropriate karma, mean the right action. And he says we have to develop sama, dhamma, uparati, and titiksha. I think we have discussed this in a couple of study circles. So because we discussed this, I think, as part of the 4 qualities of the aspirant also. But if others want to discuss, we can discuss that. Then Swami is talking about the dullness can be removed, not understanding what God says. The Guru says is listening again. Shravana. Shravana means listening to the same thing again and again will clear us. Then Swami wants us to, cynical criticism will actually come through contemplation, manana, or you mull over whatever you have heard again and again, that will remove cynical criticism. The last one, Swami says, the Nidityasanam is we should practice what we have learned. Then Swami says the fourth one also will vanish, the fourth obstacle of the present. So these are four things. So the first one, Vishaya Asakti, the desire for the world, can be overcome by the by Samadama and all that, which is the right action. Then listen to what the Guru says again and again. Then recollect and remember that again and again. Then the last one is putting it into practice. So that we can absorb the entire teaching into ourselves and our lives. So those are my words. Others may have something different to share. Please go ahead, Saira.
Sairam, in this, in the second set of question and answer, Swami said that constant meditation on the things heard will abolish the habit of cynical criticism. So, as a spiritual aspirant, how to differentiate the cynical criticism from the constructive criticism? Sometimes, we don't know, or we may not know how to differentiate cynical criticism from the constructive criticism. In order to see whether it is right thing or wrong thing, the constructive criticism also, it's an important thing in our life. Without having the Swami also said initially you have to learn and you have to do all kind of the right or wrong things, and even in the Guru selection, Swami said that you have to put it in your mind, all kind of arguments, and come up with the right mindset and fix in one Guru. But if I'm a person, I don't know whether I may think that I am asking a question, or maybe in some points, I may think that I go towards the constructive criticism. So how can we differentiate the cynical criticism from the constructive criticism? Constructive criticism, it's a really good thing, to learn the right or wrong and those things. So anyone can explain that from the cynical criticism and the constructive criticism? Thank you, Saira.
Saira. Anyone else would like to share your thoughts? And also
I guess here in this, I think Swami is talking about cynical criticism relating to the teachings of the Guru, not just about each other or in our worldly life, I guess. And I think in terms of, I guess in that context, I think more about questions that we have about the teachings of the Guru. And I think Swami has mentioned before the different types of questions. And I think basically the good questions are ones where you really have a true doubt and you ask a question to remove the doubt.
anyone else would like to share your thoughts, please? So Sairam sister, I think just to add to what Sister Kalyani said, the thing is, cynical criticism comes when we don't have the information. So what Swami says is, whatever you have listened, vinna danini. So the first thing is we should listen. Which Swami says is necessary for prajna madhyama. For example, dullness of understanding has to be first dealt with. So we have to listen to the Guru again and again. Read the same thing, listen to the same thing. So that way we will clarify what the Guru is trying to teach. Only then we have to take whatever we have listened and we need to contemplate and properly understand it. So Swami uses the word manana for that. That means you should, because one is to understand what the Guru is teaching, then have a full understanding means we should contemplate on it. We should look at it this way, that way, and all sides. And through that, our utarka or cynical criticism will go away, because then we will ask the right questions. So I think once we know that we are criticizing, if we find out the truth, facts, and then think about them, even just leave spirituality, even about somebody. We think badly about somebody because we see somebody do something. We go to that person and ask the person, why did you do that? That person will give his own reasoning. Then by listening to that, we know this is the reason this person has done. But then we may still find issues with what the person has said. But if we analyze where this person is, what is the person's situation, and understand all that, then we will not have a negative opinion, because we have properly understood that from all different angles. So actually, what I would say is the study circle is something like a manana, because we all can read again and again on our own. But when we come and discuss, we are seeing viewpoints from every different angle, and that will clarify many of our criticisms of what Swami is teaching also. Or it means we will say we can't practice it, it's not possible. That is also a type of cynical criticism. Swami is saying very impractical things, how can we live in this life? We can't lead a normal life. All that is cynical criticism, because we have not understood it. But when we discuss like this, we know, okay, there are some people who are practicing something in some way. And that becomes clarity. That is why study circle is a very important part of studying Swami's teachings. Because each of us, if we only look at from our side, we will say, we will dismiss it. We will say, Swami is not possible. Okay. But when we see everyone is practicing in some way, in some capacity, then we'll say, oh my God, maybe that is also something which I can do. So that comes through manana. You can read this another 100 times and discuss. Every time our clarity will improve, and we will not have cynical criticism. Swami, this is not practical, we can't do it. That is cynical criticism. It's not that you blame somebody. It's my understanding. And then if we practice, Swami will say, we will never think we know everything. We will know, in Tamil they will say, kattadu kaiman alavu, means what you know is only very little, a tip of the iceberg. There's so much more for us to learn. That knowledge will come to us, and then we will not be priding ourselves with conceit. So I thought, I'm sorry I talked too much.
Thank you so much, brother. Now it cleared some of my doubts on this one. Thank you, Saira.
Sairam, I believe even though we are learning in study circle, you are teaching, Swami's teaching, each person will understand what they have already in their mind. They look at the way on their perspective, I think. Even though you are teaching the same thing again and again, some people will understand differently than others. That is my opinion. That's why, even though Swami is teaching, we couldn't follow the same way he teaches. Sairam.
Sairam, sister.
So, Sairam brother, I like the constant meditation on the things heard will abolish the habit of cynical criticism. So, when you do the meditation, your mind is going to be calm. So, you are going to be avoid the doubt and all kind of thinking of the criticism. So, this is the best thing you can come out or vanish the cynical criticism. Thank you, Saira.
Sairam.
Sairam brother, I'll just like to use what the words that Swami has used, as you already mentioned, Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. I think manana may not be equivalent to constant meditation, but one perspective that I can think of is one perspective is that I think Shravana is something which is related to your senses, and Manana is something which is related to the mental state of it. So when we listen to all this bhajans, or when we sit for this swadhyaya or satsangs, it is all going through our senses within. And the second stage is Manana, where mentally you're remembering about it again and again, reminiscing about it, and trying to internalize it. So during that digestion process, if it becomes part of you, I think then it reaches the third stage of nididhyasa. And I think that's what Swami's, maybe it's one, as one of the sisters rightly mentioned, based on the knowledge that we have, we look at each of the points that we discussed from a different perspective. And as Swami already mentioned in the first question and answer today, here we discussed about the mind as the little lens through which we see the screen of the cinema. I think each of us have different perspectives. And because of all this Shravanam that we discuss, so many inputs are going inside us. And if we can broaden our internalizing aspect of us, if we can exercise that manana part of us, which is mind, I think then we can reach that last stage of nididhyasa and come out of this obstructions of present. And obviously the present is the seed for future. And how many of our janmas are there, that is okay. We need not get scared of it. The only thing that is in our control is present. So I think Swami is that's why explaining about the obstructions of present so much rather than past or future. Sai Ram.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
In regards to Sitaram's comment, yes, Swami is saying about to worry about the present. At the same time, Swami has mentioned that we are, without awareness, we are doing something wrong to the future too. So that's, I just wanted to catch on that comment. Thank you, Saira.
I think as Brother Sitaram says, that's why Swami told, don't worry about the future too much. In the previous, yes. We all worry about the future. Worries related to future always. Anyone else? Saira.
This might be going back, and I don't know if Swami's addressing it in the next paragraph, but when you describe the story of Jada Bharata, I mean, what to say of our situation? I mean, he had one attachment to a deer. And but if we are to be like that with no attachments, then will we also do we also become inert to the world like him?
Yeah, I have a question too. The compassion also punishing us. That's the one I'm thinking into my mind. Thank you, Saira.
See, the
teaching
problem
is love, right? When
the problem with which he suffered was very significant, and I think all of us also suffer. See, Jata Bharata realized everything is Atman in this world. And once you believe that God is the one who is taking care of, what actually the mistake, if at all, he made was thinking that he's looking after. He didn't realize, he forgot the God who creates will take care of. I am just given an opportunity as long as I'm there. So that one point he missed. He missed the point that God is looking after, not him.
Yes.
And because he thought he is looking after, the problem came, which he, I think, realized when he was a deer. But so he must have died without worrying about everything around him, because knowing well, God is the one who is taking care. I'm just there to do whatever God asks me. I don't have to think I am looking after without me, so no one is looking after. So that is a very, very subtle point. See, sometimes these jnanis go through this just to teach us.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Saira.
So, Sairam brother, it's a very good story about the Jada Bharata. Even though he practiced the Vairagya and Viveka, the last minute, that attachment clutch into the trouble. So he was petting that deer until the last minute, and his concentration was disturbed, even though he is in the jungle. So we have to be focused, whatever the Vairagya and Viveka, that is the most important. That one has to be practiced from the young. When you practice from the young, your five senses can control very well. Not only that five senses, God has given, I think I read in the book somewhere, around 28 tools. So years go by years, then the tool's not going to work properly. Then you cannot practice very well. And you're going to, when the age goes, whatever we studied, we're going to crawl. Then we have all the attachments and everything. So when you are free out of the attachment only, you can successfully lead into the spiritual goal. That is my understanding, brother. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you.
Sairam, I can act with it too, please. And Swami says that when you are doing the service or anything, do it on my name. Then nothing come to you, that or any desires. If you have one desire, you can come back to birth. That if you have a good action or bad action, you have to come back to birth. So Swami says that if you do anything, do it on my name. Then it don't carry you. That all that account I will put on my account. Then you will get that benefit from that too. Swami says, Sairam.
Sairam.
So I like to add one more thing, brother. Even though Gita, even Lord Krishna taught to Arjuna not to go to the jungle or go on sannyasi. So he started to follow the duty with not expecting the result, fruit of the action. When you are expecting the fruit of the action only, the desire come, anger come, all kind of problems, issues will come. If you surrender everything, you don't have any problems. So that is the main goal. We have to practice that one. That's not to attach anything. Do your duty with love and surrender everything. That's all. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you, brother.
Sairam. So we already spoke to that but we are learning everything we have to put into practice. Otherwise, it's not use of this. No. So Swami also says one time that he was giving the discourse and at the Puttaparthi, and two devotees were talking that one was asking that are you not going to listen to that Swami's discourse today? The other one said that no, Swami is telling everybody the same thing. I don't want to go today, and I am tired in that, he said. And after the discourse, Swami coming back and saw these people and told them, until you put into practice, I will say the same thing again and again. So I'm saying, Sairam.
Sairam, brother. Thank you.
Sairam, as brother has opened up that discussion of practice, I just want to kind of share how, mind, when you practice and then at least it happens with me. And sometimes I doubt whether it's right or wrong. Really what I'm reading about all this Vahinis and all, it's really happened. Bhagawan knows everything. Sometimes it comes to my mind, tell you the truth, when I'm practicing or, some kind of unwanted emotions comes in, and just to control them, I just think, does he really know that whatever he's saying, is it true? And going back to his literature, going back to his discourses, which I might have heard a month ago or a year ago, keep going to those discourses help me to confirm, yes, it is true. Whatever he's saying, he is the truth. So just to share that many times when our mind is wavering and, you get in these different emotions, going back to the same discourse to firm up your faith, it really helps. Sorry.
Thank you very much, sister. I think that's the part of manana, repeating. Ruminating is the word. Ruminating means it's like the cow which goes and grazes. Then it comes and sits down in one place and it takes out whatever it has, that's the way cows are designed. So they take and again chew what they have, whatever bitten, they chew it again and again and process it. And that's the way Swami, that's called manana. Ruminate means thinking over something again and again to understand it better. Thank you very much, sister. So going
And
back
just to add to that, what you have said, that why by constantly meditating on things what we hear, I had lots of apprehension of meditation. I said, oh no, I'm a karma yogi, I'll do it, and all of those things. But keep listening to Swami discourses. The jnana, the meditation is the way to be close to him, to hear his voices, actually forced me to get into meditation. So there is no excuse, oh, I am like that. Of course we all can do it. It's just we have to make up our mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sister. If there is a bit silent, I think there are a few more questions which Swami is talking answer. If it's okay, I will go to the next slide. I hope people don't feel rushed. You all can always bring up whatever we read and discuss, or you can read and we can again revise next week also. Sister Kalyani, you can please read.
Bhakta, Swami, to master all this seems impossible for everyone. To make it easy for all, tell me which is important. Swami, my dear fellow, to know a thing, vijnana, higher wisdom, is necessary. Ajnana, false wisdom or false knowledge, makes one ignorant. Don't you know? Bhakta, so many people say so many things about this vijnana and this ajnana. What is the basic thing about this vijnana and this ajnana? What is the basic thing behind both? Tell me. Swami, now you have come again to the very first step. Ajnana is a mental attitude that has reference to the external object, and vijnana is a mental attitude that has reference to the internal subject. Ajnana is known also as manas and chittam. When the activity and attitude turn inward, they are called buddhi and antakaranam.
So, just like all of us, Swami, you're giving so many things to just give us one, I think Swami knows that, everyone has. So he's giving a simple one, which is ajnana and vijnana. Ajnana means going after the external objects and external world. Vijnana is going inward and seeking what is the real thing which is inside me and who am I, who is making this function and so on. Well, it means Godward path. And Swami says that's a simple. As long as you're walking towards the Godward path, you will be fine, leaving out the external objects. So I think those, Swami says, if that is right. And then Swami says, the antakarana, the mind has 4 instruments. Okay. One is manas, chitta, buddhi, and ahankaram. Actually, in the Telugu, Swami says it's not antakarana, ahankaram is what Swami says. So I think in the English version, for some reason, somebody has changed it to antakarana. Because antakarana means all these 4 are called antakarana anyway. So the manas and chittam, Swami says, are externally focused. Whereas buddhi and ahankaram are inwardly focused. And okay, ahankaram, then that will become another topic, that when Swami says what exactly is ahankaram. But Swami says, understand that if you go externally, your mind and chittam are active. When you go internally, it's buddhi and antakarana. So I will stop here. Swami wants us to differentiate those 4. And anyone can share your thoughts, please, Sai.
Sairam, it's very good, the last sentence, as you explained it. So, ahangar, instead of andhakaranam, it should be ahangaram. So, it's very, very, very subtle and very good points Bhagawan is making here. Because the first thing, because in different other places, Bhagavan is saying the first thing is ego. First thing to come out is ego. But the ego could be explained indifferently. Here the ego is the individuality or feeling that I am separate or GV aspect. That is the first shadow, no? So, and buddhi also, ego or the individuality, feeling of individuality of vyakti. So those two are internal, and in the externally we use the mind and the chittam to interact into the world. So when buddhi and ego are cleansed, then we will be able to get our real true self. Yeah, but I just appreciated this part because usually when we talk ego, we think that ego comes outside world. He's talking ego. He's talking egoistically. But here it looks like the individuality that we create ourselves from the true nature. So that's the thing. And thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you.
Sairam, brother Suradas, you said about the ego, individuality. Can you explain, elaborate a little more on that, please?
Yeah, so long as I think I am separate from the truth or from God, then I am a jivi. So the thing is, that is the separating part. Is something like the wave coming from the ocean. Then the wave thinks that he is separate from the ocean, that is the ego. So if anybody can feel that he is one with the Atma, one with the God, that gap, the gap is now bridged, the gap is now taken away, and the merger is easy. The merger with Paramatma is blocked by this feeling of separateness from God. So that is a separateness, the feeling of separateness in the ego. That's the individuality, that we think that we are separate from him. So that is the thing, small thing there.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. So separateness and the gap is the ego.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay. Yeah, very good. Thank you. You're getting it. Thank you.
Just again about that same point about the ahamkaram being one of the activities that turns you inward, and Swami saying, well, I guess Swami doesn't say that, because Swami saying manas and chittam are known as ajnana, but he's not necessarily saying that buddhi and ahamkaram are vijnana. Is he?
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Vijnana. Vijnana means internal. That is still closer to the Atma. These two things, the buddhi and the ego, are very much closer to the Atma, the real self. So the manas and chittam outside. So outside, even all these four are inside. Again, we can put a compartment saying that the manas and chittam are working anytime, every time. And the ego, feeling, and buddhi are very much closer. In truly speaking, Andhakaranam is very much closer. In other speeches, in other examples, Bhagavan said, I have so many things. That is the first thing, the feeling separateness. That is the ego, individually feeling. So, buddhi and ego are still internal than manas and chitta. That's what it looks like. Thank you, sir.
Anyway, thank you, Brother Shivadas. Very nicely put. Maybe I will, I don't know, Kalyan seems to be wondering, so I will just add my piece also to this. See, the thing is, Buddhi and Ahankaram, we have these 4 functions of the mind. When the mind is very strong and the Chittam is very strong, which are going outward, the Buddhi and Ahankaram also sometimes go along. They are not strengthened. But once you cut the mind and the Chittam, cleanse them, then the Buddhi and Ahankaram actually can easily go, because they're capable of going inwards. Because the Aham is the sense of I, the I-ness. The problem is, as brother has nicely put, the original thing is, when we are born, we think we are separate from God, for that oneness. And then that gets further worsened by going outwards. So when this, for example, when the mind and Chittam are going out, means we think we are the body, we are the mind. So the mind thinks we live only to experience the external world. So then what happens? Then we even take a buddhi and use it for that. We say, how can I make more money? How can I enjoy this world? The buddhi function is there, which is actually capable of doing something good. But because the mind and chittam are running wild, the buddhi and ahankaram also go behind them. So once we start looking inwards, the mind and chittam will subside. Then what is remaining is the buddhi and ahankaram looking inward. Once the ahamkaram knows the Atman is permanent, it merges with it. Because the ahankaram is the sense of I-ness. We are separate, will merge. Because that is the final, that is the first one when we get created. And that's the final frontier which we have to cross. The loss of separateness, separate identity. So here Swami is talking about that separate identity, which is not polluted by mind and chittam, is vijnana. So when you stop going outward, so that's my understanding. I hope Brother Sivadas is.
Yeah, your explanation is very good. Okay. Yeah, made it clear.
Does it have a relation also to the Vijnana Maya Kosha?
Yes, that is exactly.
Sai Ram, one little clarification on the word vijnana. The same word we use in Tamil for the equivalent word is science. So this vijnana and that vijnanam also is the same meaning, or here it says is the mental attitude that has reference to the internal subject. I thought that is maybe the inner being, maybe our mental attitude about the inner being, but we call in Tamil Vijnana, that's about maybe the subject of science. So that's the same Vijnana, or this is different from that one?
Sairam, actually, the modern world is picking up good terms from religion also to make them comfortable. Now, actually, Vijnana is all, the science is always external. Science never go inward. Baba is always saying, no, science is only 5 elements, and sometimes they use the logic argument. That's it, science. It never go inside. So here Vijnanam is as the Kalyan said, Vijnanamaya Kosam. That is, so next to Anandamaya Kosam. So Atma, Anandamaya Kosa, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Manomaya Kosa. Manomaya Kosam, then Pranamaya Kosam and Annamaya Kosam. So these are the 5 seats. So this Vijnanam means Prajnanam actually. Bhava, the Vijnanam here is like something like a Prajnanam. Like, so that is different and this is different. But external world, they pick up so many words from different areas now.
Yeah, that's why I also thought maybe some sort of, when I was thinking, Sister Kalyani also mentioned about the Vijnanamaya Hosam, in the Panchamaya Hosam, that is one of the Hosam. But I I also thought about why we have used the same word in Vinyanam. Normally we say Anyanam, Minyanam. Those are two opposite words in Tamil. Anyanam, Minyanam. Vinyanam, we use it for the different purpose, for the maybe studies of science, or in that perspective. That's why I thought whether why we are using that one. Maybe Brother Sivadas indicated that maybe we have borrowed this word to use for different purpose. That could be that. Okay. Thank you, Saira.
So, Sairam, I like to add one more thing here. The Vijnana is always whatever you will discuss is talk about the world within. It's our spiritual side, we talk about Atmic level. So if you have five senses, we talked about many times, is always try to go outwards and try to enjoy the pleasure. So that is the one causing the problem. How we can avoid that one? We have to use the intellect. You have to educate the Vairagya and Viveka. Then the mind will come under control. The mind is supposed to listen to the intellect. Then how we can explain this one? If you're going to burn some wood outside, then if you want to stop that one, we have to remove all the log outside. Then there won't be any more flame. Then it's the same thing. So when we remove the mind, then our bhakti will go inwardly. So we can be with the Atma. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you very much, brother. I think the topics are very, heavy this week. I think we all have to do mananam at home, contemplate on it. We can take this up again and go through the same slides and discuss next week also. I think because there's so many concepts introduced, I suggest that everyone takes it away, thinks over. Any questions you have, just jot them down. We can take them up for discussion at the next week, because there's so much to process mentally also. So thank you very much for everyone for contributing your thoughts. I think this is a very important section. I think we all have to get full understanding of, so that we can progress without any wavering, with steadiness. So we will discuss the same slides next week also. So please read through and think about it, and come next week, and we will continue our discussion. Those are my thoughts. I don't know, I'll just pause for 10 seconds to see if anyone has something really which they would like to share. Otherwise, we'll close for today.
Sairam, the one more thought. When we say Sariyai, Kiriyai, Yoham, Jnanam, that Jnanam has Anyanam, Vijnanam. There is then we study today Vijnana. I think we have to analyze all those things. Sairam.
Sairam, thank you. So we will close today, and we will again go through the same slides next week also, just so that we are all clear. We don't continue in Ajnana. So we'll close with Samasta Lokansha beside. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Sairam, everyone.
Sairam.
Saira.